Hello everyone and welcome to the last video we'll be making from round 5 of this year's Tata Steel Masters edition. It is world champion Gukesh versus Vincent Keymer, both of them still undefeated in the tournament. And Vincent did have a bit of a crazy game in round 1, but he was able to pull through it and defeat Mendonca. Some of you have been saying that it's Mendonça, but I haven't checked it properly. I will for the next video that I will be making on his game, so make sure that the pronunciation will be taken care of. And Gukesh with a win over Anish Giri was a pretty brilliant win. As you've seen, I've made a video on it, and then followed by 3 draws. So their record is pretty much the same, and now they face each other. So how much better can it be? And we're also going to discuss the standings after round 5 has been played, as today's a rest day. And also we are going to check out the changes in elo in the players who are above 2700 and playing in this tournament. So let's check it out. World champion Gukesh opens with pawn to d4. Sorry about that. We have knight to f6 by Vincent, pawn to c4, e6, and knight to c3. We have bishop to b4, the Nimzo-Indian defense, and pawn to e3. We have castles and bishop to d2, the 4th most popular continuation. But lately I've been seeing it quite a lot, and everyone is trying to gain advantage. We even, if you've been following the Alechin saga that I've just finished, there were a couple of Nimzo-Indians where Alechin countered it with bishop to d2, simply because the other lines were too analyzed, and this provided for an actual game. So let's see what happens. Vincent goes d5, we have knight to f3, and knight b to d7. b6 and c5 are the top 2 moves here. Knight b to d7, not as common. And now, even in this not as common line, rook to c1 is the move that's usually played. But after Gukesh counters with queen to c2, we are now in really rare territory. Pawn to c6 with bishop to e2, and now pawn to b6, and it is now already, as of move 8, that we have a completely new game. And for Nimzo-Indian, that is really wonderful stuff. So let's see what happens. Gukesh castles kingside and pawn to a5. Okay, a3. This move is bound to be played against the Nimzo. Bishop captures. We have bishop captures. No reason to ruin your pawn structure. And now knight to e4. We have bishop back to e1, preserving the bishop, nicely controlling the knight, and bishop to a6, putting pressure on that c4 pawn. Bishop to d3, and now pawn to h6. And here we have a very interesting decision. Bishop captures on e4. You could, if you wanted to keep material on the board, probably b3 is the way to go. But Gukesh gives up the light square bishop. Bishop captures on e4. D captures, and now you could trade pawns like queen captures, bishop captures, but knight to d2. And now, okay, Vincent has to defend the pawn somehow. If you're not gonna go into something crazy like pawn to c5, you defended the pawn with pawn to f5. So, okay, pawn to f3. Gukesh wants to, improve his situation in the center and also activate the knight. E captures, knight captures, and now pawn to c5, trying to get... you can't really overextend here with pawn to d5. No one would be that crazy to do it. King captures. I mean, you do have a passed pawn, but it doesn't look like nearly enough. So after c5, rook to d1, always a useful move, especially with the queen on d8. We have c captures on d4, rook captures on d4, and now queen to e8, sidestepping the rook on the d file, bishop to g3, preparing to double up on the d file, and here Vincent plays pawn to e5. Okay, we have rook to d6, nothing spectacular happening here, but it is a rook on d6, and now doubling up and tripling up is bound to happen. Rook to c8, putting pressure on that c4 pawn, and here Gukesh plays a most interesting rook f to d1. He even spent some 8 minutes deciding on this, because there's a lot to consider. I mean, there's, okay, what if black just defends? What if black decides to capture on c4? Those are all interesting options, and probably safest for Vincent is to play rook f7 and be done with it. There's no other way to put it. Or if you go, rook captures on c4, let's say queen d2 puts triple pressure on that knight, and now let's say bishop to c8, really complicated line. Queen to d5 check, going after the rook on c4. Now you block with queen to f7, and now after queen captures and rook captures, you get this position where after bishop captures on e5, it's equal material. Maybe white is a little bit better, but all in all should be Should be a draw. But after rook f to d1, Vincent said, I want more. He wants to beat the world champion with the black pieces, plays pawn to f4, and this is where the game becomes very, very interesting. E captures on f4, e captures, bishop to f2, now also putting pressure on that b6 pawn, and rook to f7, just adding a defender. And should you capture this pawn on b6? Well, if you capture, let's say knight captures and rook captures, yes, you won a pawn, but you've given up a very strong bishop, and also bishop captures on c4 wins the pawn back, so it's not really that ideal. Instead, we have rook 1 to d4. Okay, adding another defender to d4, and now you can still triple up if you need to. We have bishop to b7, and now queen back to d1, threatening queen captures knight on d7, bishop to c6 defending, and now pawn to b4. The idea, of course, being pawn to b5, kicking away the bishop, and, well, just rook captures on d7. So b4, you know, on his way to win the game. A captures, and now queen to e7. Of course, the idea behind b5 is that, behind queen to e7 is that if b5, you will first capture on f3. And okay, we can even show it something like b5 captures on f3. And now if g captures, you can even go knight to e5, and you've taken care of everything. Not, you know, not a worry in the world. So after queen to e7, we have queen to d3, and now knight to f6. We have rook captures on f4, and now comes bishop to e4. And here, the idea of giving up the f4 pawn is a pretty neat one, but it should have been followed by knight to e8. And knight to e8 is a really, really cool line where white would give up the exchange here, and after rook captures, you would have something like rook captures on f7, king captures, and now after queen to d5 check, nicely connecting with the rook, you would see rook to e6, and after pawn to c5, white creates a passed pawn, something like knight f6, queen goes to c4 or b3, doesn't matter. But either you will, you know, win this pawn as well, or you will have one passed pawn. But all in all, it's a fair trade-off. So if Vincent wanted to make this work, this is what he should have played. But now he plays bishop to e4. Okay, we have queen to d4 by Gukesh, and now bishop captures on f3. We have rook captures, and now probably last chance to hold for Vincent was queen to e4, but he played queen to e2, and now Gukesh just starts his engine run, and he goes rook to d8 with check. Rook captures on d8, we have queen captures on d8, blocking with rook to f8, and now queen to d3, defending on c4, and just saying, okay, let's trade queens, I'm up a pawn, and well, it's hard for Vincent to decide here. 5 more moves to reach time control. He's 1 minute, almost 1.5 minutes on the clock. It's unpleasant playing this with the queens on the board. It's not, you know, much more pleasant playing it with the queens off the board, so it's a very, very hard decision. He decided to trade queens, as does the engine, says that this is by far the best. Rook captures on d3, and now rook to c8, stopping c5, but now rook to d4. And okay, now Gukesh will simply have to bring the king into the game and try to improve the position as much as possible before trying to convert this into a full point, because that's pretty much the only thing we're discussing here, whether Gukesh wins this or maybe Vincent can draw. King to f7, king to f1, and now rook to a8. We have king to e2, rook to a4, going after the b4 pawn, and now bishop e1. Just nicely defending. King to e6, and now bishop to d2. We have pawn to h5, king to d3, knight to g4, and now king to c3, offering the h2 pawn, but capturing on h2, you just go king to b3, and that knight will be too far away from the action to be relevant to this game. Basically, if you even if you go something like knight captures, you can go even rook e4 check, and if king f5, you can go rook h4, and now okay, something has to give, even king b3, and then this will fall, and then you play c5, and it will not be possible to stop all the pawns. So after king c3, knight to f6 was played, and now king to b3, playing in great style. Gukesh, rook to a1, and now bishop to c3, attacking the rook to b1 check, king to c2, and rook to f1, and now knight to e8. Rook to d2 first, stopping any checks and picking up the pawns. Knight to e8, and now Vincent plays the move that we've discussed that would have been better many moves ago. King b3, we have g6, and now bishop to d4, going after the b6 pawn. Rook to b1 with check, we have king to a4, and now rook to c1. Bishop captures on b6, we have rook captures on c4, and king to b5. Now it's, again, only up one pawn, but it's the passed b pawn. Rook to c1, we have bishop to c5, and now knight to f6. We have rook to d6 with check, king to f5, and now king to c6, making room for the passed b pawn to start marching forward. Knight g4, and now rook to d2, offering the h2 pawn again, but again, you're just not in time to capture it. We have king to e6, rook back to d6 check, king to f5, and now pawn to b5. We have knight to e5 with check, king to d5, and now knight to d3 with a double attack on the bishop here. So rook to c6, the only move that wins the game, and now knight to f4 check, king to d6, and rook to d1 with check. We have king to c7, knight to d5 check, and now king to c8, and now, well, you're not stopping that pawn. Of course, you will have to give up a piece. Rook to c1 is played, now king to d7, rook to c2, and now bishop to d6, offering a rook trade. So, of course, avoiding that, rook captures on g2. Material balance has been restored, but not the positional balance. So, rook c5 goes after the knight. We have king to e4, and now king to e6 with a double attack. Rook to d2 defending, and now pawn to h4, stopping pawn to g5. We have knight to b6, and now rook to c6, attacking the knight, knight back to d5, and now pawn to b6. And that's it. You can no longer avoid to keep the knight, because the rook cannot move. You would well, you could play rook to b2, but rook to c4 check kicks the black king away from the defense of the knight, so you give up the knight either way. So you might as well capture a pawn. So knight captures on b6, we have rook captures on b6, and now king to f3. But here, just bishop to e7, and he was in this position on move 72 that Vincent Keymer resigned the game. As there is nothing more to be done here. So first loss of the tournament for Vincent Keymer. Gukesh remains undefeated, gets close to that 3,000 rating performance, and improves his position in standings overall and in the, in the live ratings as well. And here you resign, there's not much to calculate here. I mean, the bishop controls the h4 pawn. You can never advance the pawns. You're just gonna gobble up all of these pawns, and then you're up a pawn and a piece. That is pretty self-explanatory, so we're not going to go into that. But yeah, these are the standings after first 5 rounds have been played. So with Prague drawing and Nordberg winning that incredible game, they are once again tied for first place. Gukesh, world champion, 3.5. Vladimir Fedosov also playing a tournament of his life, 3.5. Hare Krishna, 3. Fabiano Caruana, Wei Yi, Vincent Keymer, Alexis Arana on 2.5. Anish Giri, 2 points. Jordan and Max on 1.5. Arjun Erigaisi, 2800 player on 1 point. Definitely, I mean, we've already discussed how it's really not his tournament. It's never been his tournament, and well, I hope all the best, but you know, so far it's looking like this is not going to be his tournament either. And last year's winner of the Challenger section, Leon-Luc Mendonça, still figuring that out, currently in last place. And as I've promised, here are the live ratings. So Magnus still leading by a lot. Hikaru, the only other 2800 in the world currently, as Fabi dropped out after losing that game to Fedosev. Gukesh currently on +7, 2784, so nearing, closing in on that 2800. Big loser Arjun, minus 21 points. He was 2800 going into this tournament. Now he no longer is. Nordberg also winning very nicely, 8 points. He's currently on 2776. Alireza losing some points, but not in this tournament. Wei Yi on +3. We also have Pragnananda on +12, where he definitely belongs. I mean, he's not a below 2750 player. We have Levon also playing in a different tournament. Yang Shishto do the different tournament. That's probably, Bundesliga or something. Vladimir Fedosov, huge winner, almost 20 points up. He's on 2736, closing in on 2750. And yeah, we have some other movers like Keymer and Anish losing some points, but nothing serious. Rapport also losing some points. And Hare Krishna also playing in this tournament, +6 points, comes back to 2700, where he definitely belongs. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff happening. I will keep you guys informed. Very much looking forward to round 6. We can check out the pairings for round 6 if you guys want that. So Arjun will be facing Fabi, Alexis Arana will be facing Feroce, Vincent will be facing Anish, and we have the clash of the tournament, I believe, Nodrbek versus Gukesh. For at least for this round, Nodrbek versus Gukesh is definitely the one. Then we have Pentala versus Jordan, Prague versus Wei Yi. Maybe not in terms of standings, clash of the round, but in terms of what kind of a game I'm expecting, also the one to watch. So yeah, Nodrbek versus Gukesh and Prague versus Wei Yi. Those will be the two that we'll be focusing on the most. So if they finish, be sure that will be the one I will cover first. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Ryan Canus, Isaac Pino Catadao, Everett Mulder, John Tardif, and Maximo Eisern for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this spectacular event until it finishes. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.